What happens when you lose control of your own body? What if a feeling, an urge, became a sickness you couldn't stop? Strasbourg, 1518. One woman walked into the street and began to dance. She didn't stop, not for hours. Within a week, 30 more people had joined her. Within a month, 400, dancing without rest, shrieking and bleeding until their hearts gave out. This is the bizarre, true story of the dancing plague. It all started with one person, a woman known as Frau Trophäa. In July 1518, she stepped outside her home and began to twist, spin, and jump. Her husband begged her to stop. She could not. She danced for nearly 6 days, exhausted, her feet raw and bleeding, but unable to rest. Then others joined, neighbors, friends, then strangers. The city was gripped by a dancing fever. It was not joyful. It was agonizing. They were screaming, crying, begging for help, all while they continued to dance. The city authorities were baffled. Their diagnosis? Hot blood, a natural overheating of the brain. Their cure? More dancing. They believed the victims had to dance it out, so they cleared the public markets. They built a wooden stage. They even hired professional musicians and pipers to keep the rhythm going. This was a terrible idea. The public spectacle and the constant music only made it spread. The crowd grew larger. At its peak, an estimated 400 people were dancing in the streets. And then they began to die. Heart attacks, strokes, pure physical exhaustion. At one point, 15 people were dying every single day. The music finally stopped. The authorities were desperate. What had caused this? The mystery has lasted 500 years. The first modern theory was poison. Ergot, a fungus that grows on damp rye, the main ingredient for bread. Ergot contains a chemical, the same chemical used to make LSD. It causes hallucinations, delusions, and painful muscle spasms. It seems to fit, but there are problems. Ergot poisoning also cuts off blood flow. It causes gangrene. It makes it hard to move, let alone dance in a coordinated way for weeks. And it wouldn't affect 400 people in the exact same way. This theory was dismissed. Was it a religious cult? A secret heretical ritual? Again, no. Historical records are clear. The dancers were not heretics. They were terrified. They were victims. They were begging for release. We are left with one final explanation, the one that explains everything. There was no poison. There was no cult. The sickness was in their minds. A case of mass psychogenic illness, or mass hysteria. Strasbourg in 1518 was a city on the edge of a breakdown. Famine was rampant. Disease, like smallpox and leprosy, was everywhere. A series of brutal winters and intense superstitious fear. People genuinely believed that saints could curse them with a dancing plague. It was a perfect storm of terror, stress, and belief. Frau Trophea was the spark. She likely danced from extreme personal distress, but when others saw her in their stressed, terrified state, the idea became contagious. It was a psychological plague. The mind convinced the body that it had to dance. The authorities, with their drums and stages, only confirmed the hysteria. They didn't just dance because they were sick. They were sick because they were dancing. The dancing plague is a story of a collective mind breaking under invisible pressure, a psychological storm that turned deadly. But what about a physical storm? A force, not of the mind, but of nature, so powerful and so strange it forced 9 hikers to cut their way out of their own tent and walk barefoot into a frozen wasteland on a slope known as the Mountain of the Dead.